Salvete. So in this video, we're reading something a little different. It is exercise 67. It's called Caedēs Chrīstiānōrum, which means the slaughter of the Christians. Okay, we can see that there is a genitive plural ending there, and so this is of the somethings. Christian, the stem is Christian, so this is of the Christians, and Caedēs is the word for slaughter. We learned that from the third declension. We are in the fourth declension right now, as we, if you're watching these videos in order and watching them all at the prescribed times, but this paragraph here on the slaughter of the Christians has words from all the declensions that we've seen so far. And it's a little different because typically your exercises have been numbered 1, 2, 3, and one sentence has nothing to do with the next. This is now, exercise 67, is the first exercise where a paragraph length reading is being given to you and meant to actually be read and understood. And of course, the idea is that you would read it and understand it as you're reading it, somewhat slowly, not as quickly as you would if it were an English paragraph. But that's the idea. The idea is that you would get a sense of the full meaning of the paragraph. And of course, if that doesn't happen, you can certainly pick apart a paragraph and translate it in the way that we've been doing. You could do that with any of these individual sentences. It's just that they're not numbered now, so it's going to be harder to sort of keep your place or, figure out where you left off in the paragraph. So I'm going to begin with a reading in Latin of this paragraph. I'm going to try to use ecclesiastical pronunciation all the way through, but that may not occur. And then we're going to go through it slowly. We may also. And now, this is not my book, by the way, so you're going to see me writing in this. This is my book. This is a photocopy. So I will write on this. There's not a whole lot of space to do that, but we're not going to do it to every single sentence. And so we'll pick it apart a little bit more carefully after the full reading. So here we go. Post Christi adventum lux veritatis in mundo erat, sed Romani amici Christi et veritatis non erant. Christiani autem amici Christi erant. Erant multi Christiani in imperio Romanorum. Erant in portibus, et in oppidis provinciarum, et in silvis, et in montibus. Erant in exercitu, et in equitatu, et in senatu. Erant servi et milites, erant matres et patres, Galli et Romani, propter metum autem Christi regis, et propter nomen Dei Chrīstiānōrum Romani Christianos occiderunt. Post Caedēm Chrīstiānōrum Romani non erant amici et servi Dei. Christiani autem quod Romani Christianos propter legem Christi occiderunt, nunc in caelo sunt cum Maria et Christo et gloriam Dei Patris vident. There are some questions to answer about the reading to show what you understood of the reading. I'm not going to go over those because, and they continue on to the next page, as you see here. We're not going to go over those because then I could use them as part of an assignment. So the book is asking you to read and answer the questions. So that's what you would see as an assignment. What we're going to do here, though, is just pick apart some of the sentences. So you might get a couple answers to these questions. But if this were assigned to you, you'd have several, to think through and do on your own. So here, we're talking about after And post takes the accusative, right? So where is their accusative? That's not an accusative, that's accusative. So that we're talking about after the coming, right? After the arrival. And then we have Christi, which obviously anytime you see Christi, it's got to be of Christ, right? It's never going to be Christ's because there's not more than one Christ. So after the arrival of Christ, lux veritatis in mundo erat. So something was in the world, right? Which one is the nominative? Lux is the nominative. So the light was in the world. Veritatis, the light of truth. So this is a genitive singular from the third declension, right? Varius is. So lux veritatis is the light of truth. So after the coming of Christ, the light of truth was in the world. Said, Romani, amici Christi et veritatis non erant. But the Romans, friends of Christ and of the truth, they were not. So the Romans were not friends. So the Romani is the subject of this sentence here, the sentence after the said, right? Because the said means but, and it makes it a compound sentence. So that means we have a brand new set of subject and verb, right? All the way to this sentence. So this whole thing is one sentence with its own subject and verb, and here's our subject. But here's a predicate nominative because the Romans were not friends. So the Romans equal friends, or the Romans don't equal friends, right? Because they weren't friends. But this is the predicate nominative that we talked about. And then this Christi is of Christ and of the truth. Okay, so there's two genitive singulars here, but this genitive singular is from the second declension, us I, and this genitive singular is from the third declension, varius is, right? So they were not friends of Christ and of the truth. And so that's kind of the situation where we start the slaughter of the Christians, okay? This is after Christ. Christ is in the world. Now the light of truth is in the world, but the Romans were not friends of that light and that truth. Christiani autem, the Christians, however, amici Christi erant. Erant multi Christiani. And so here we have erant. Again, now this erant is an expletive. Erant. So that means it was saying there were many. This word has a superscript on it, which tells you that it'll give you the meaning down here. It's just this word was needed to write this paragraph, and it wasn't in a vocab to this point yet. So there were many Christians in the empire. So we have an ablative ending because we're talking about in the empire of the Romans. So this isn't quite the Roman Empire. This isn't how to say the Roman Empire. That would be in Imperio Romano, but in Imperio Romanorum, in the empire of the Romans. They were in, and then now we have a bunch of ablative plurals. In portibus, they were in the ports. Et in oppidis, and in the towns. Provinciarum, of the provinces, and in the towns of the provinces. Et in silvis, and in the forests. Et in montibus, and in the mountains. That's where all these Christians were. Okay, the Romans were not friends of them, but hidden within this Roman Empire were secret Christians. And so that's the beginning of exercise 67. We'll go just a couple sentences further into it so that you have at least half of the reading to read in order to be able to answer these questions here. Erant in exercitu, et in equitatu, et in senatu. They were in the army, in the cavalry, which they considered separate from the army, and even in the Senate. So we have a bunch of fourth declension words here, right? In portibus, in senatu, in equitatu, in exercitu. Erant servi et milites, they were slaves and they were soldiers. Erant matres et patres, Galli et Romani. So there were even some Gauls and some Romans. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick apart in particular one sentence, and then we're going to call it a day here. This one. Propter metum autem Christi regis et propter nomen Dei Chrīstiānōrum Romani Christianos occiderunt. Okay, so propter means on account of, and propter takes the accusative. So we're looking for an accusative for us to be able to figure out on account of what, right? Propter metum, well, there is metus, is fear, and propter metum means on account of fear, so that could be autem. Now, autem might look accusative, but autem isn't even a noun, right? It's just the word however, right? So on account of fear, however, of the Christians, on account of fear, however, of Christ, the King, ooh, look at that. We have a positive here. Fear of what, right? We use the genitive to say fear of something, right? Because the genitives are of case. So on account of fear, however, of Christ, the King, right? Notice that regis is in the genitive singular as well because it's in a positive. Christ the King, on account of fear, however, of Christ the King, and on account of, okay, so on account of two different things, and on account of the name. Now, this looks like it's in the nominative. Oh, that's because nomen is a neuter word, and the nominative and the accusative are the same. So this isn't a nominative. This is an accusative. Propter nomen, on account of the name of God, on account of the name of the God of the Christians, the Romans. Okay, so we're talking, this whole sentence is on account of all these things, and then we finally get to our subject. The Romans are our subject. The Romans killed the Christians. All right, so we have these last few sentences that I'm going to let you read on your own, but we have a very good start into Caedēs Chrīstiānōrum. And I'm going to read it one last time for you here at the end of the video. Okay. Again, the idea here is that you would read it and understand it as it's being read. Okay, and then we have some English questions for you to answer also in English to demonstrate that understanding. One last time. Post Christi adventum lux veritatis in mundo erat, sed Romani amici Christi et veritatis non erant. Christiani autem amici Christi erant. Erant multi Christiani in imperio Romanorum. Erant in portibus et in oppidis provinciarum, et in silvis et in montibus. Erant in exercitu, et in equitatu, et in senatu. Erant servi et milites, erant matres et patres, Galli et Romani. Propter metum autem Christi regis, et propter nomen Dei Chrīstiānōrum, Romani Christianos occiderunt. Post Caedam Chrīstiānōrum, Romani non erant amici et servi Dei. Christi autem, quod Romani Christianos propter legem Christi occiderunt, nunc in caelo sunt cum Maria et Christo et gloriam Dei Patris vident. Valete.